Chapter 11, The Ninth Level of Foundation Establishment Realm, An Opportunity from the Tree Spirit. After leaving the Jade Serene Peak, Hanj was about to return to his cave abode when Liu Sanxin approached him and placed a hand on his shoulder. Liu Sanxin smiled and said, "Junior, I appreciate your good intentions. If you encounter any trouble in the future, feel free to ask me for help." Hanj blinked and said, "I wish you success, Senior." How could he deny a favor that came knocking on his door? Ha ha. Liu Sanxin laughed and left. Hanj had only taken a few steps when Chang Wei caught up to him. "Junior, you haven't done any sect missions yet, right? Do you want me to guide you through one?" Chang Wei asked with a smile. "No thanks. I want to cultivate." Cultivating in the cave abode is very slow. You can earn spirit stones by completing missions and then go to various spiritual pools to cultivate. It's much more efficient. At the same time, you'll also get contribution points by completing missions. If your contribution points are high, you can buy pills. Never mind. I'm afraid of death. How can we cultivators be afraid of death? If you're not afraid of death, why are you cultivating? You. Chang Wei was vexed with him. Why is this junior so cowardly? Hanj didn't go because he had a lot of spirit stones. HMPH, so be it. Chang Wei turned around and left. Hanj fell into deep thought. Indeed, he couldn't cultivate in the cave abode. He had to go to the spiritual pools. It would be too risky to go after 100 years when he was closer to death. Thinking that Hanj immediately headed towards the inner sect city. 10 years passed in a flash. Hanj had been wandering around the various spiritual pools. He had spent nearly 400 superior grade spirit stones. His cultivation level had reached the 5th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm, and all 6 types of cultivation potentials had reached the 5th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. At this rate, even if he spent the remaining 400 or so superior grade spirit stones, he still wouldn't be able to reach the Golden Core Realm. Hanj began to concentrate on cultivating the Thunder Spiritual Energy and Fire Spiritual Energy. He couldn't spend all the spirit stones. There would definitely be expenses later on. Another 10 years. He might as well finish cultivating his thunder cultivation potential at the spiritual pool and then cultivate his fire spiritual energy in the cave abode. That's it. After making up his mind, Hanj headed straight to the Thunder Spiritual Pool. No cultivator could be seen in the Thunder Spiritual Pool. But Hanj wasn't afraid of loneliness. "Brat, you're here again. I thought you were a genius before. Why are you still only at the 3rd level of the Foundation Establishment Realm after so many years?" The tree spirit couldn't help but tease. Hanj shrugged his shoulders and said, "It's precisely because I have no talent. That's why I cultivate so diligently." True. After saying that, the tree demon closed his eyes. Hanj was a regular visitor, so he didn't need to remind him. Soon, Hanj went and his cultivation state. Time quickly passed. Year after year passed. 5 years later, Hanj's thunder cultivation potential had already reached the 7th stage of the Foundation Establishment Realm. Mo Fuchu had returned with a female disciple. This female disciple was extremely beautiful, and her mannerisms also had the bearing of a noble lady. "Brother Han, you're also here?" Mo Fuchu said with surprise. Hanj opened his eyes. He smiled and replied, "Brother Mo, you're here too." Mo Fuchu was an absolute genius. Through his interpersonal relationships, Hanj noticed that he had already reached the 9th level of Foundation Establishment. Although nearly 20 years had passed, to be able to break through 2 levels in the Foundation Establishment Realm and head towards the Golden Core Realm, what else could one be but a genius? Let me introduce you. This is my junior at Heavenly Thunder Peak. She's also my younger sister from my clan, Mozu, Mo Fuchu said with a smile. Hanj cupped his hands and said, "I'm Hanj from Jade Serene Peak." Mozu nodded and carefully sized him up. She asked, "Why are you still at the 3rd level of the Foundation Establishment Realm?" "My elder brother said that you might already be at the 6th level." Hanj smiled and said, "I want to do it steadily." "Hey, let's quickly start our cultivation." With that, he sat down. Although Mo Fuchu was curious about his cultivation level, he didn't ask further. The two of them quickly began to meditate. Not long after, They were surprised to discover that Hanj's absorption speed far exceeded theirs. What kind of cultivation technique is he cultivating? No, it's his cultivation potential. Mofuchu was shocked. Mozu also looked at Hanj in surprise. Hanj wasn't bothered by their reaction. He had to hurry. Every minute was spirit stones. 3 years later, Mofuchu and Mozu prepared to leave. Mofuchu looked at Hanj. He wanted to say something, but seeing how focused Hanj was, he didn't want to disturb him. The two left the Thunder spiritual pool. Brother, why didn't Hanj's cultivation level increase? Mozu asked curiously. Given the speed at which Hanj absorbed spiritual chi, he should have broken through long ago. Mofuchu had a complicated look in his eyes as he said, this person definitely has a method to suppress his cultivation level. I'm afraid his cultivation level has already caught up to mine. 9th stage foundation establishment realm. Mozu widened her beautiful eyes and said, you said that 20 years ago. He was only at the 9th level of the Chi refinement realm. So fast. Mofuchu took a deep breath and said, Jade Serene Peak is packed with ascetics. I didn't expect such a genius to appear. Let's go. We have to work as hard as him. Mozu nodded. At the same time, Hanj saw 2 lines of words. Mofuchu's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability. 2 stars. Mozu's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 2 stars. Hanj was indifferent. He had already reached the 9th level of foundation establishment realm and was currently attempting to break through. Half a year later, Hanj finally cultivated his lightning spiritual energy to perfection. Even if he wanted to cultivate it again, it would be impossible. He stood up and prepared to leave. Boy, it appears that you possess a method to suppress your cultivation. You're truly remarkable, the tree spirit said with a laugh. His tone was no longer laced with mockery. Hanj shrugged and smiled. He walked to the teleportation formation and was about to leave. I have an opportunity here. Do you want to take it? Asked the tree spirit. Hanj raised his eyebrows. No. The tree spirit was stunned. You can get large amounts of spirit stones, sect contribution points, and even equipment and treasures. Are you sure you don't want to try? Is it dangerous? If you want a good opportunity, you naturally have to take the risk. Then, forget it. I don't want to die. You. The tree spirit trembled in exasperation and disbelief. Hanj urged, please let me out. I still have to return to my cave abode to enter seclusion. The tree spirit snorted and activated the formation, sending him out. Hanj received the refund of a year and a half worth of spirit stones in the pavilion. He still had nearly 300 spirit stones in his storage bag. He didn't return to his cave abode immediately but headed for the salary building. After all these years, he hadn't received his salary. He should take it. The Jade Pure sect would give out salary once a year. They could leave it there and collect it in one go. The salary building was one of the most bustling pavilions in the Jade Pure sect. There were many disciples, and they had to line up to receive their pay. Hanj's temperament attracted the attention of many female cultivators. The male cultivators also quickly noticed him. As Hanj's cultivation level continued to increase, his unparalleled charisma was also fully displayed. The system could hide his cultivation, but not his charm. Who's this person? He's so handsome. I never knew we had a man like this in the Jade Pure sect. I've seen him before. He seems to be a disciple of Jade Serene Peak. TSK. He looks like he's walked out from a painting. The disciples of Jade Serene Peak all have good looks. Do any of you know his name? Hanj pretended not to notice the discussions around him. After receiving his salary, he quickly fled, causing the female cultivators who wanted to strike up a conversation to feel endless regret. Just as he walked out of the building, Hanj bumped into Mozu. Brother Han, you're here. How fateful. Mozu said in surprise. She quickly went up and held his arm. Hanj's face froze. Chapter 12, 7 Illusionary Steps. 10,000 Demon Realm. The female cultivators who walked out of the salary building frowned when they saw Mozu holding Hanj's arm. They all wailed in their hearts. Hanj quickly pulled his back and kept a distance from her. Mozu smiled warmly. Brother Han, I have something that I need your help with. The side storyline is here. Reject. Hanj shook his head and said, sorry, I still have to go back and cultivate. Cultivate. This is a huge opportunity you don't want to miss. Have you heard of? Mozu hurriedly said. She suddenly noticed the female cultivators behind Hanju and felt that it wasn't convenient to talk here, so she started dragging him away. Miss Mo, don't pull me. I'm not even afraid as a woman. As a man, how can you be afraid? Master forbids us from having romantic feelings. PFFFT, we've only met twice. Do you think I'll fall in love with you? Mozu's face instantly turned red. She secretly glanced at him. Brother Han was indeed good-looking. This was the first time she had seen such a good-looking man. If they became companions, even Mozu's ears turned red. Hanj noticed her expression and felt that something was wrong. A sign of danger. He had yet to reach the golden core realm, so he couldn't have romantic feelings. Mozu was beautiful, but she couldn't ruin his dedication to cultivation. Hanju immediately took a step to the side and kept to 1 meter distance from her, walking side by side. The two of them walked to a deserted alley. So, what is it? Hanju asked. Mozu looked around. After confirming that there was no one around, she asked in a low voice, Brother Han, have you heard of Li Qianlong? Never heard of him. What? You've never heard of Li Qianlong? Get to the point. Hanj was a bit frustrated. Although he was almost 50 years old in this lifetime, he had never left the Jade Pure sect. He couldn't even recognize the famous people of the sect, let alone the entire cultivation world. Li Qianlong is the most talented individual Jade Pure sect has seen in 100 years. It's said that he's almost at the soul formation realm. His cave abode is located on a huge mountain outside the Jade Pure sect. He has cast many forbidding spells on his cave abode, which renders it concealed. Recently, I received news that his cave abode has appeared. However, he has a beast guarding it. The beast is afraid of lightning. We're all thunder cultivators. We will definitely be able to subdue it. The more Mozu spoke, the more excited she became. Hanju asked, Where's your brother? The inner sect competition ended last year. He was chosen by the sect master to be especially groomed, so I couldn't find him. Hanj raised his eyebrows. It's over. Crap. He had cultivated for too long and forgot such a major event. He hoped that Fairy Zixuan would not blame him. If what you said is true, why aren't the sect leaders personally going to retrieve this cave abode? Hanju asked. Mozu shrugged and said, his cave abode isn't that important to the sect. However, to us Foundation Establishment cultivators, it's a huge opportunity. Hanju asked, how did you know about this? A friend of mine told me. It isn't on the mission board. It must be a trap. Definitely not going. Hanju immediately refused. It's too dangerous. I'm not going. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't participate, or you'll die very miserably. With that, he turned around and left. Mozu stomped her feet in anger. However, it didn't negatively affect her impression of Hanj. Instead, she was beginning to hesitate. Even a genius like Hanj doesn't dare to go. Could there really be danger? After returning to the Jade Serene Peak, Hanj went to the Jade Serene Hall and knelt at the gate. The inner sect competition was an important event. If he was the only one who didn't go spectate from the Jade Serene Peak, he would be in huge trouble. Come in, I have something to talk to you about. Fairy Zixuan's voice drifted over as the door opened. After entering the hall, Hanj discovered that Fairy Zixuan wasn't alone. Chang Wei and an old man were also present. Wait, this old man? He's Elder Ryan. Hanj was stunned but continued to move forward. Upon seeing him, Elder Ryan's face froze in confusion. This kid is a disciple of the Jade Serene Peak as well? How can this be possible? Elder Ryan was in disbelief. This is a new disciple of the Jade Serene Peak. He will be your junior from now on. You can just call him Junior Ryan, said Fairy Zixuan. Hanj nodded and looked at Elder Ryan. Junior Ryan, if you have any trouble in the future, feel free to look for me. Elder Ryan gritted his teeth and said, Hanj, how did you become an inner sect disciple? He was shocked to find that he couldn't see through Hanj's cultivation. In just over 20 years, Hanj had surpassed him from a mere mortal. Fairy Zixuan wasn't surprised that they knew each other. Instead, she asked, Why are you still at the third level of the Foundation Establishment Realm? Third level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. Elder Iron was even more shocked. He had worked so hard to reach the Foundation Establishment Realm, but Hanj was already at the third level. Hanj was afraid that Elder Iron would sabotage him, so he had to demonstrate his value to Fairy Zixuan. Thus, he no longer hid his cultivation level. Master, I'm already at the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. I just wanted to keep a low profile, so I hid my cultivation level. Elder Iron and Chang Wei widened their eyes upon hearing that. Junior, how did you break through so quickly? Chang Wei exclaimed. She literally watched Hanj leap from the 9th level of the Chi Refinement Realm to the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. It was too ridiculous. Hanj explained, I've been cultivating in the Thunder Spiritual Pool and didn't dare to slack off. That's why I made such progress. Fairy Zixuan smiled in satisfaction and said, if everyone on the Jade Serene Peak was as hardworking as you, Jade Serene Peak would definitely become the strongest peak of the Jade Pure sect. You kept a low profile to cultivate. You have successfully obtained Fairy Zixuan's recognition. You're rewarded with a movement technique manual. Congratulations on obtaining the 7 illusionary steps. Hanj concealed his excitement and quickly said, Master, you're flattering me. I just like to cultivate. That's all. Elder Iron tried his best to calm down. He knew that he couldn't suppress Hanj anymore. It was best to forget what happened in the past. If he told Fairy Zixuan about it, she might become unhappy with him. He suddenly felt nervous. With Hanj's cultivation, killing him was as easy as flipping his hand. No, he had to resolve this grudge. Since you like to cultivate so much, I will assign you a mission to guard the Jade Pure Sect's 10,000 Demon Realm. Fairy Zixuan's smile suddenly turned incomprehensible. 10,000 Demon Realm. It sounded so awesome and so dangerous. Hanj instinctively wanted to decline, but he still asked carefully, Master, what's the 10,000 Demon Realm? Chang Wei said excitedly, it's the place where the Jade Pure sect raises its beasts. Master, I want to go too. Let me accompany Junior Han so that he won't be bullied. Fairy Zixuan glared at her, scaring her so much that she didn't dare to say anything else. Every peak will send a disciple to guard the 10,000 Demon Realm. Because there are many kinds of beasts in the 10,000 Demon Realm, the spirit chi there is concentrated. It's a very suitable place for you to cultivate. But dangers also exist. There are often cases where the beasts go berserk and disciples are brutally killed. Fairy Zixuan explained to him. She spoke with a tone that left no way for Hanj to decline it. But, the silver lining was that it was a good place for him to cultivate. Fighting beasts was better than contesting with other people. Isn't it just being a zookeeper? Fine. I will follow Master's arrangements. Hanj cupped his hands. Fairy Zixuan nodded and said, pack up and head straight to the Pet Beast Pavilion. Someone will bring you to the 10,000 Demon Realm. The previous one stationed there is your first senior. Now that he's under the sect master, only you can go. If the mission is successful, I will reward you. In addition, you will receive 10 superior grade spirit stones for every year you guard the 10,000 Demon Realm. You can stay there as long as you want as this is a continuous sect mission. Before you go, you can receive the mission first. Chapter 13, Mysterious Beast, the Sect Master's Missing. Before returning to his cave abode, Hanj first inherited the 7 illusionary steps. He had to strengthen himself first to prevent any mishaps. Unparalleled Movement Technique, top-notch movement technique aptitude. With this connate Providence, Hanj completely grasped the 7 illusionary steps in 2 hours. There were a total of 7 levels to this footwork technique. For every level one mastered, one could create a shadow clone of himself. With 7 shadow clones, it would be easy to make the enemy confused about which one would be the real person. Using this footwork technique, one could also greatly increase one's speed of escape. After mastering it, Hanj returned to his cave abode to pack his things before heading to the inner sect city. He first went to the mission building to receive the mission before heading to the Pet Beast Pavilion. In the Jade Serene Hall, Fairy Zixuan stared emotionlessly at Elder Iron and slowly said, I don't wish to delve into the stories between you and Hanj from today onwards, your fellow disciples. You must respect him. With my understanding of him, he won't scheme against you. You can rest assured. Eldryan knelt in the hall and sighed, nodding slowly. In the future, Hanj will be my personal disciple. If you build a good relationship with him, it will only be beneficial to you. As long as it's not a grudge about life and death, you should reconcile. Fairy Zygzuan's words shocked Eldryan. Personal disciple. Fairy Zygzuan thinks so highly of Hanj. When he thought of Hanj's insane speed at cultivating, he could only admit that kid's indeed worthy. Walking out of the teleportation formation, Hanj arrived at the 10,000 Demon Realm. The sky of the 10,000 Demon Realm was covered in dark clouds as if it were about to rain at any moment. Hanj took out his flying sword and shot up into the sky. According to the instructions of the disciples at the Pet Beast Pavilion, he had to find the pavilion of the Jade Serene Peak first. That would be his residence. There were forbidding spells cast on the pavilion, and ordinary beasts wouldn't dare to approach. Of course, he couldn't hide in the pavilion forever. If he encountered a rampage, he had to take action to reduce the losses for the Jade Pure Sect. The Jade Pure Sect had spent a lot of money to buy all the beasts in the 10,000 Demon Realm, and nurturing them also required a lot of resources. The pavilion wasn't far from the teleportation formation, and Hanj quickly found it. It was 2 stories high, and it wasn't very big. The house was deserted. After familiarizing himself with the mechanisms to trigger the forbidding spells, Hanj began to meditate and cultivate. The long and boring cultivation began again. A year and a half passed quickly. Hanj was already 50 years old. Name, Hanj. Lifespan, 50, 196. Race, mortal. Cultivation, 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. Technique, 6 paths of reincarnation technique, can be inherited. Magic, unparalleled finger divine sword, 7 illusionary steps. Mystical power, none. Equipment, none. Cultivation potential, spiritual physique of the 6 paths. It contains top-notch wind, fire, water, earth, wood, and thunder cultivation potentials. Increases providence to a certain extent. Connate providence is as follows. Unparalleled, Immortal Beauty, top-notch Charm. Destined Sword Fanatic, top-notch Sword Dao Aptitude, top-notch Sword Dao Learning Ability. Unparalleled Movement Technique, top-notch Movement Technique Aptitude. Descendant of the Immortal Emperor. After the game begins, you will receive an unparalleled cultivation technique and 1000 superior grade spirit stones. Check interpersonal relationships. He cultivated his wind cultivation potential to the 6th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. Apart from the Thunder Spirit root, the other cultivation potentials were still at the 5th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. Since Hanj had nothing to do, he opened his interpersonal relationships to check. Xing Hongxuan had broken through to the 9th level of the Qi Refinement Realm. Interesting. Eldryan was still in the 1st level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. Hanj opened the email. Your good friend Moza was attacked by a fiendish cultivator and was almost seriously injured. Your good friend Moza was attacked by disciples of the Jade Pure Sect. She was in a perilous situation and fell down a cliff. Hanj was speechless. As expected, there was a trap in that cave abode. Fortunately, he did not go. It was very unfortunate for her. Hanj could only pray for her silently. Roar. Suddenly, a roar came from outside the pavilion. Hanj frowned and stood up immediately. As he walked out the door, he saw a white cat standing on a branch. This white cat had a slender figure, but there were white tiger patterns on it. Its purple eyes looked even more demonic. Hanj didn't sense any danger and ignored the little white cat. At this moment, the white cat suddenly pounced on Hanj. Hanj instinctively used the 7 illusionary steps to dodge. The white cat slammed into the wall of the pavilion, kicked off with its 4 legs, turned around, and continued to pounce on Hanj. Hanj frowned. The forbidding spells when triggered. He quickly jumped out into the clearing. The white cat pounced again, its speed several times faster than before. So fast. Hanj used the 7 illusionary steps and created 7 shadow clones to surround the white cat. The 7 Hanjus raised their hands at the same time to use the unparalleled finger divine sword. The white cat looked around, caught off guard, and was hit by the real sword energy. Blood spluttered as it wailed. It quickly jumped away and disappeared into the woods. Hanj retracted his hand and returned to the pavilion. He let out a long breath and wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Fortunately, he had learned the 7 illusionary steps beforehand. Otherwise, with the white cat's speed, he wouldn't have been its match. Where did that white cat come from? It's so fast, but luckily, it doesn't have any other attack methods. Hanj thought silently. It seemed like he had to be more cautious in the future. After thinking about it, Hanj continued to cultivate. Inside a palace, the elders of the 18 peaks were gathered here. Sect Master is not here. We have to investigate the recent rampage in the 10,000 demon realm, an elder said. He was the teaching elder of the Heavenly Thunder Peak. Old Immortal Taoist Thunder. It's rather fishy. I keep having the feeling that it's related to the Viridescent Nether cult. That's right. The fiendish cultivators from the Viridescent Nether cult appeared in the nearby Li Qianglong's cave abode. I suspect there's a traitor in our higher-ups. Once the sect leader left, they started a series of actions. Could it be that the cult wants to make use of the beasts in the 10,000 demon realm? Very likely. After 200 years of training by the Jade Pure sect, the 10,000 demon realm has become a force that cannot be underestimated. Let's send more disciples into the 10,000 demon realm. The elders were all talking at once. Fairy Zhiguan sat quietly without interrupting. After a long discussion, the peaks finally decided to send 2 more disciples into the 10,000 demon realm. The elders left. Just as Fairy Zhiguan was about to leave, old Immortal Taoist Thunder suddenly called out to her. When only the 2 of them were left in the hall, old Immortal Taoist Thunder asked, "Junior, why didn't you say anything just now?" Fairy Zhiguan said calmly, "You can decide on these matters." Old Immortal Taoist Thunder narrowed his eyes and asked, "Do you know where the sect leader brought those 18 core candidates to?" Fairy Zhiguan didn't reply. "If there really is a traitor among the elders, then the only person I can trust is you, Junior. We have to work together," old Immortal Taoist Thunder said seriously. Fairy Zhiguan replied, "Of course. After all, we were taught by the same master." Old Immortal Taoist Thunder smiled in satisfaction. 10,000 demon realm. It had been 2 years since the white cat left. Hanj's 5 spiritual powers had all reached the 6th level of the foundation establishment realm. Cultivating steadily, he was already halfway to the golden core realm. "My young friend, are you using the 10,000 demon realm as your training ground?" A mocking voice sounded. Hanj opened his eyes and saw that an old man had appeared at the door. The old man was wearing a coarse cloth robe. He was shaking a wine gourd, and his nose was red from over-drinking. Hanj frowned and asked, "Who are you?" He actually didn't sense the old man's approach. Dangerous. Chapter 14, The Demon King, obtained an unparalleled sword technique. Like you, I'm also a disciple of the Jade Pure sect who's here to look after the 10,000 demon realm. The red-nosed old man chuckled. He sized up Hanj and clicked his tongue in wonder. The 3rd level of the foundation establishment realm, but looking at the rate of your expiration, I'd say you definitely ain't only at the 3rd level. You're probably at the 9th level of the foundation establishment realm. Am I right? Hanj couldn't help but tense up. His true cultivation had been discovered. This was the first time he had met someone who could tell his cultivation. Could it be that this person's cultivation was the same as Fairy Zhiguan's? You don't have to be nervous. Did you volunteer to come here, or did your master send you here? Asked the red-nosed old man. Looking at how Hanj cultivated, he didn't seem to have volunteered to come. Hanj replied, "My master, Fairy Zhiguan, sent me here. I have a backing. Don't try tricking me." Li Qingcai has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 1 star. A line of words appeared in front of Hanj. He quickly checked the list of his attributes and checked his interpersonal relationships. Li Qingcai, 8th level of the nascent soul realm, sect master of Jade Pure sect, adores Fairy Zhiguan. Current favorability, 1 star. The sect master of the Jade Pure sect. Isn't that the biggest boss? Hanj was shocked. This old dude actually has an affection towards my master? The thought of Li Qingcai and Fairy Zhiguan together made him shudder. Li Qingcai is not worthy. Did your master give you a mission? Li Qingcai asked. Hanj replied, even if there is, how can I tell you? Li Qingcai smiled. Oh, you can't tell others about the mission? Hanj remained silent. Li Qingcai stretched lazily and smiled. Come with me, then. You've gotten into trouble. Since you're Fairy Zhiguan's disciple, I can help you settle it. Puzzled, Hanj got up and followed. As the sect master of the Jade Pure sect, Li Qingcai shouldn't be intending to harm him. The two of them walked into the forest. Do you know why I'm here? Li Qingcai placed his hands behind his back and asked with a smile. Hanj shook his head. Maybe because you're a simp. But of course, he wouldn't say that. He couldn't let his sect master lose face. The number of beasts around you is increasing. It looks like they are likely to go into a rampage. The key is that these beasts are very well behaved at the moment, as if they are waiting for the moment. To be able to command so many beasts, it must be the doing of a demon king. You have probably provoked the tiger heart white dragon. This little fellow's father is a famous demon king, and it inherited the demon king's bloodline. The reason it summoned so many beasts is probably to take revenge against you. After hearing Li Qingcai's words, Hanj recalled the white cat from 2 years ago. Could that be the white tiger heart? Hanj recounted his experience. You're faster than tiger heart white dragon? Li Qingcai asked in surprise. Can it be that this kid has already become Junior Zhiguan's personal disciple? Thinking of what Fairy Zhiguan had said, Li Qingcai couldn't help but nod. Li Qingcai's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 1.5 stars. Hanj raised his eyebrows and said, I learned a movement technique. It's normal for me to be faster. He immediately felt better. It seemed like it wasn't that he was weak, but that the tiger heart white dragon was truly fast. If it was any other disciple, they probably wouldn't have been able to keep up. Following Li Qingcai, Hanj arrived in front of a cliff. He looked down and saw the figures of beasts everywhere in the wilderness below. The beasts all had terrifying looks. The big ones were as big as hills, while the small ones were all kinds of insect-like beasts the size of a pail. This was the first time Hanj saw a scene like this. He couldn't help but pale. He estimated that there were at least 1,000 beasts. If all of them were to charge at the pavilion he was in, there was no way for him to defend it. He would only be able to flee. His gaze landed on a large rock. The white cat from 2 years ago was sleeping soundly on it. Hanj was speechless. I'm too lucky. Bumping into a little demon king straight away. Sir, you said you were going to help me deal with it. Are you going to kill it? Hanj asked. Li Qingcai glared at him and said, this tiger heart white dragon has great potential. Won't the sect find trouble with me if I kill it? Hanj said gloomily. Then, how do we resolve the problem? You can go tame it. Li Qingcai pinched his beard and smiled. Hearing this, Hanj turned around and left immediately. With so many demonic beasts, how am I going to tame it? Little brat, why are you leaving? Li Qingcai quickly pressed on his shoulder and questioned. Why did Junior accept such a disciple? I'll set up a formation and trap them here. 5 years at most. If you can tame the tiger heart white dragon within 5 years, I'll reward you with the Pure Jade sect's ultimate technique, Li Qingcai said seriously. The sect master of the Jade Pure sect has given you a mission. You have the following choices. A demon king's hatred. The attention of the viridescent nether cult. Hanj almost exploded. He immediately phrased his response. I think I won't do it, sir. You should find someone else. I'm really afraid. I just want to cultivate in peace. Li Qingcai was stunned. He frowned and said, I can teach you the Pure Jade sect's supreme cultivation technique. The Pure Jade technique, comparable to my 6 paths of reincarnation technique. Hanj still shook his head. Li Qingcai's favorability towards you has decreased. Current favorability, 0.5 stars. Li Qingcai snorted. Then get lost. Hanj bowed and fled quickly. Li Qingcai sighed. Is the person Junior arranged not him? Back in the pavilion, Hanj chose the second option. You rejected Li Qingzai's mission and obtained the sword technique manual. Congratulations on obtaining the unparalleled sword technique. 3 Pure Shadow Sword. An unparalleled sword technique? Hanj rejoiced. Finally, although the unparalleled finger divine sword was not bad, its range was limited. The sword it shot out was more like bullets. If he was faced with the large-scale invasion of beasts, it would be very difficult to do anything. He didn't inherit it immediately but waited. An hour later, he began to inherit this sword technique. As he inherited the 3 Pure Shadow Sword technique, Hanj's body began to absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Not long after, a strong eddy encircled the pavilion. The surrounding trees swayed as if a storm was about to arrive. This strange phenomenon lasted for an hour. The inheritance was completed. Hanj's top-notch aptitude in the Sword Dao allowed him to inherit the technique without any difficulties. Inside the room, Hanj suddenly opened his eyes, and a cold light flashed in them. He raised his hand and made a hand seal, mobilizing the spiritual force in his body to execute the 3 Pure Shadow Sword. 3 sword shadows with different colors appeared behind him. The Thunder Spiritual Force Sword shadows apt with flashes. The Fire Spiritual Force Sword shadow was like raging flames, burning fiercely. The Wind Spiritual Force Sword shadow was blue-green, and the blade was surrounded by strong winds. What a powerful sword technique! Unparalleled, indeed. Hanj immediately stood up and walked out of the pavilion. The 3 sword shadows floated behind him like his shadow. Using his finger as a sword, he pointed forward. The 3 sword shadows behind him zoomed forward at an extremely fast speed. They were even faster than the Tiger Heart White Dragon. They were like 3 different colored lightning bolts. Boom! Blinding sword flashes bloomed. Dozens of trees within 100 meters radius were chopped into 3 parts by the sword shadows. The chopped tree trunks soared into the sky, and its leaves withered. It was a spectacular scene. As the trees fell back to the ground, dust was flung into the air. So powerful. Hanj was pleasantly surprised. This is what I call unparalleled technique. So strong. He hadn't even used his full strength. If he were to face the army of beasts, he would turn the battlefield into a meat grinder in minutes. Chapter 15, Defeat the Beasts with the Sword Shadows. After learning the 3 Pure Shadow Sword technique, Hanj became much more confident. He could now produce 3 sword shadows, each of a different attribute, and he could manipulate all of them with ease. The technique could also be activated continuously. When the sword shadows of the first activation disappeared, he could summon another 3, until he ran out of spirit energy. Hanj's spirit energy far surpassed cultivators of the same realm. After all, he cultivated the technique inherited from the Immortal Emperor, the 6 paths of reincarnation technique. Apart from cultivating 6 types of spirit energy, each type of spirit energy in the 6 paths of reincarnation technique could be cultivated to a robust state. From today on, I'm no longer a weakling. Hanj thought proudly. He returned to the pavilion in high spirits and prepared to continue cultivating. Cultivation was the key. The higher one's cultivation level was, the stronger the effects of his techniques. When he reached the nascent soul realm, his 3 Pure Shadow Sword technique would have an apocalyptic effect. Hanj was looking forward to it. Several days later, Jade Serene Peak sent over 2 more disciples. One was Chang Wei, and the other was also his senior, Meng He. Meng He was the Jade Serene Peak's 7th disciple. His cultivation level had reached the 9th stage foundation establishment realm. He was pretty strong. Why is the forest outside cut off? What happened? Meng He asked in confusion. Hanj replied, previously, beasts tried to besiege me. Fortunately, an elder helped. Chang Wei sized him up and asked, Junior, are you alright? As she spoke, she reached out to touch him. Hanj hurriedly took a step back. Furious, Chang Wei scolded him. Are you serious? Hanj cleared his throat and said, Master has warned that disciples of Jade Serene Peak are not allowed. HMPH, you wish. I'm just concerned about you. Meng He shook his head and laughed. He didn't find it strange. Although Hanj kept a low profile, rumors about his good looks had already spread far and wide. Many female cultivators in the inner sect were talking about a breathtakingly handsome disciple from the Jade Serene Peak, but they didn't know his name. After hearing the rumors, Meng He immediately reckoned that they were referring to Hanj, not to mention Jade's serene peak. Even in the entire inner sect, no male disciple was more handsome than Hanj. Chang Weya was quite pretty, but she was still far from the most beautiful female cultivator. Junior Hanj doesn't need to worry about finding a companion. Master was afraid that you would be in danger, so she sent us to help you. It's said that the viridescent nether cult might have already infiltrated the 10,000 demon realm. We have to be careful. Meng He reminded. Viridescent nether cult. Hanj frowned. No wonder that if he had subdued the tiger heart white dragon, he would attract the attention of the cult. So, they have already infiltrated the 10,000 demon realm? Perhaps that's why Li Qingcai came here. How dangerous. Hanj suddenly wanted to leave the 10,000 demon realm. Junior Chang, rest first. I'll go out and take a look. After saying this, Meng He walked out of the pavilion. Hanj walked to the side and continued to meditate, not giving Chang Weya a chance to strike up a conversation. Chang Weya curled her lips and also began to cultivate. Ever since she found out that Hanj was already at the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm, she had spent most of her time cultivating in seclusion. She was fired up. But regarding Hanj's cultivation, Fairy Zixuan had told her not to spread it out. So the other disciples of the Jade Serene Peak didn't know of his cultivation level. 2 days later, Meng He finally returned. He looked like he had run into trouble. Hanj and Chang Weya hurriedly stood up to attend to him. Meng He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said with lingering fear, I encountered a very strong beast equivalent to a golden core cultivator. I nearly died. Hanj asked, are there many beasts nearby? There's a group of beasts several kilometers away, but I don't know who trapped them with an array formation. They aren't a threat. The powerful beast I encountered was quite far away, so it won't pose a threat to us, replied Meng He. Then, hurry up and recuperate. Yes. Meng He meditated and circulated his spiritual energy to heal his injuries. Not long after, he spat out another mouthful of blood. The blood was black. Extremely terrifying. Was he poisoned? Lucky I don't wander around. Indeed. One shouldn't be reckless. Hanj pondered as he cultivated. Chang Weya was also very uneasy. It had only been 2 days, but 7th Senior was already injured. The 10,000 demon realm was a truly savage place. Why did Junior Han remain unscathed for so many years? Chang Weya looked at Hanj suspiciously. Could he be more powerful than 7th Senior? After Meng He was injured, he didn't dare to wander around anymore. Hanj was busy cultivating and didn't go out. Chang Weya naturally didn't dare to go out, either. A year quickly passed. That day, Hanj was cultivating. Meng He suddenly opened his mouth and said, the presence of beasts is getting stronger in the vicinity, and they're moving rapidly. Their target should be us. Hanj and Chang Weya opened their eyes upon hearing that. Hanj said, then, why aren't we running? Chang Weya frowned. But this place is under the jurisdiction of the Jade Serene Peak. If we leave, aren't we leaving our post without approval? Then, stay and wait for your death. I'll tell Master about your heroic deeds. Hanj stood up. Chang Weya got anxious and stood up as well. Junior Han is right. The 18 peaks each have an area to manage. We definitely won't be the only ones being attacked by the wave of beasts. Other people will definitely run as well, said Meng He. Ever since his defeat by the powerful best, he had lost his previous confidence. As long as we survive, there's hope. Let's go. After Hanj said that, he rushed out of the pavilion. Chang Weya and Meng He followed closely behind. The three of them flew on their swords. Once they were high in the air, they lowered their heads to take a look. Indeed, with the pavilion as the center, countless beasts were running towards them from all directions. Cold sweat broke out on Hanj's forehead. So many. It seemed like he was still not vigilant enough. He still needed to train his divine sense. If not for Meng He's reminder, they would definitely be in huge trouble now. Swish. An ear-piercing sound came from ahead. The three of them turned their heads and saw a black eagle with a wingspan of 30 feet speeding over. Its feathers were like metal arrows. Be careful. Meng He immediately took out a talisman and quickly chanted a spell. 3 balls of flames shot out from the talisman at the black eagle. The black eagle dodged rapidly and circled in the air before continuing to pounce on the three of them. At the same time, Other flying beasts also attacked. Hanj took a glance. There was a total of 7 of them, all zooming at a breakneck speed. Chang Wei was so frightened that her face turned pale, and her hand holding her equipment trembled. Also frightened, Meng He shouted, "Let's split up and escape." Hanj cursed silently. "So you want to escape alone?" On the surface, Hanj and Chang Wei's cultivation levels were inferior to Meng He's. They were, in fact, his burden. Meng He turned around and escaped. He cast a spell and transformed into a gust of wind, escaping extremely quickly. Chang Wei didn't know what to do. This was the first time she had encountered such a dangerous situation. Seeing the 7 demon beasts approaching like rockets, Hanj immediately used the 3 pure shadow sword technique. The sword shadows immediately materialized and zapped out. Chang Wei only saw a flash of light in front of her, and the 7 flying beasts were cut into several pieces, dying on the spot. She widened her eyes and looked at Hanj in disbelief. Hanj's long hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes were cold and sharp, emitting an awe-inspiring aura. Chang Wei's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 4 stars. Hanj's expression changed. Crap. He turned around and saw that Chang Wei was looking at him with glowing eyes. Meng He had already fled without a trace. "That brat's really quick," Chang Wei excitedly said. "Junior Han, so you're actually this powerful?" Hanj said seriously, "Senior Chang, don't tell anyone what you saw. I still want to keep a low profile and cultivate quietly. If I'm exposed, I might become a core candidate. If that happens, you won't be seeing me anymore." Chang Wei immediately nodded. Chapter 16, Face the Wall and Repent for 100 Years. Connate Cave Abode. Hanj swooped down, and Chang Wei hurriedly followed. "Junior, what are you trying to do?" Hanj replied, "Aren't there many valuable materials on the beasts? I need to collect them." Only now did Hanj finally realize how powerful he was. The beasts weren't as strong as he had imagined. The moment this thought appeared, Hanj immediately relaxed and was full of confidence. "Oh, that's right, Junior. Let me help you. I've learned how to dissect beasts. It's the only way I can thank you," Chang Wei said enthusiastically. Hanj thought for a while and nodded. Having a helping hand could boost efficiency. After about 5 minutes, the 2 of them cleaned up the carcasses and left quickly. As they traveled, Chang Wei was very excited. However, when they started talking about Meng He, she gritted her teeth. 7th senior is going overboard. No, he doesn't deserve to be our 7th senior. When I go back, I must complain to master. I hope he gets eaten up by beasts. Junior, where are we going next? Hanj was also very hesitant. It was really too dangerous. Forget it. Let's go back. At most, we'll kneel before master and apologize, Hanj said seriously. Although ordinary beasts couldn't hurt him, what if a demon king and members of the cult appeared? Chang Wei asked hesitantly, "Is this really okay? If you think it's bad, then stay." "No, I'll go back with you." The 2 of them rushed towards the teleportation formation. Before long, they found it. There were more than 10 cultivators gathered before the teleportation formation. Meng He was among them. He was stunned upon seeing them. He hurriedly put on a surprised smile and said, "Junior brother, junior sister, you're actually still alive. That's great." Chang Wei gritted her teeth in anger. She wanted to curse at Meng He. Hanj raised his hand, signaling her not to. He suddenly caught sight of Mo Fuchu. "Brother Han, why are you here?" Mo Fuchu asked with a smile. He noticed Chang Wei's expression and couldn't help but glance at Meng He. Meng He sensed Mo Fuchu's gaze and felt extremely awkward. He forced a smile. "Master arranged for me to come. By the way, your sister, Mozu, is in trouble. She went to Li Qianglong's cave abode to search for treasures. I tried to persuade her against it, but she still went," Hanj said as he walked to the teleportation formation. Chang Wei followed closely behind. The 2 of them took out spirit stones and activated the formation to leave. Mo Fuchu frowned, his expression changing. Someone beside him asked, "Who is this person?" "A disciple of Jade Serene Peak." "Why haven't I seen him before?" Meng He replied, "Yes, he's my fellow disciple at Jade Serene Peak. He's called Hanj. He's highly regarded by Master." Previously, Master wanted him to join the sect leader's core candidates, but he rejected her. Upon hearing that, Everyone was shocked. Mo Fuchu's eyes flickered. He's indeed worthy. After returning to the inner sect, Hanju and Changwei went to sell the materials they obtained from the beasts. There was a dedicated market in the inner sect for transacting materials from beasts. What surprised Hanj was that these materials were sold for 397 superior grade spirit stones. Is killing beasts so profitable? Hanj said excitedly. He suddenly wanted to turn back and continue killing the beasts. Shang Wei hurriedly stopped him and said in a low voice, "Junior, don't think about it. The 10,000 Demon Realm is a small world specially designed by the sect to nurture beasts. The beasts inside are all valuable. Under normal circumstances, disciples are not allowed to kill them. This time, the situation is special. We might not be held responsible, but it will definitely be very troublesome next time." Hanj realized he had been too imaginative. He should just stay in seclusion and cultivate as usual. The two of them returned to the Jade Serene Peak and first visited Fairy Zixuan. After the door opened, the two of them entered the hall to kneel before her. "Why did you return?" Fairy Zixuan asked with a frown. Hanj replied, "I discovered that the 10,000 Demon Realm is too dangerous. There are demon kings and the cult. We were attacked by beasts and I even offended the son of a demon king. I really can't stay there anymore. Master, please punish me. I'm willing to face the wall and repent for 100 years. Fairy Zixuan was speechless. Shang Wei looked at him with a strange expression. 100 years? That's really extreme. What if you are not allowed to cultivate within the 100 years? Fairy Zixuan asked. Hanj's face froze. Shang Wei promptly said, "Master, when we were attacked by the beasts, 7th Senior Meng abandoned us and ran away." The mention of this infuriated her. However, Fairy Zixuan didn't get angry. She remained calm and said, "Don't you think it's just because you are too weak? You can't force your senior to stay behind and die with you." Shang Wei wanted to say something but hesitated, unable to say anything. It was the cruel truth. Meng He didn't hurt them. He just wanted to protect himself. Fairy Zixuan said, "Wei, you should leave first." Shang Wei glanced at Hanj, then bowed and left. When Hanj and Fairy Zixuan were the only ones left in the hall, a murderous aura spread out. Hanj was shocked. What's Master trying to do? He didn't dare to raise his head and looked very well behaved. "Hanj, what are you cultivating for?" Fairy Zixuan asked. Her voice was cold and emotionless. "For immortality. If you keep cultivating in seclusion, you won't be able to live forever. What matters most is competing for opportunities." "I understand, but I want to increase my cultivation level first. I'll try my luck when I'm strong enough." "Master, you don't understand. I have unparalleled cultivation potential and 4 top-notch connate providences." Hanj thought silently. Only people with insufficient talent needed to compete for opportunities. Fairy Zixuan continued, "I originally arranged an opportunity for you. If you succeed in the 10,000 Demon Realm this time, you will definitely become a core disciple in the future. The treatment you will receive will also be far better than now. Unfortunately, you have given up." "Thank you, Master. I can only blame myself for not having the fortune. The cultivation technique you are using is unfathomable, and I have nothing much to teach you. How about this? Do you want to have a cave abode on par with the Thunder Spiritual Pool? It even has other types of spirit chi apart from Thunder Spirit Chi." Hearing this, Hanj suddenly raised his head and asked in surprise, "Where?" Fairy Zixuan said with an expressionless face, "Recently, the Jade Pure sect discovered 3 more connate cave abodes. These cave abodes are not created by cultivators, but the creation of heaven and earth. They're near the sect. If you want to obtain a connate cave abode, you must participate in the inner sect assessment that's held once every 10 years. Anyone below the core disciple level can participate. If you can obtain one of the top 3 spots, you will be able to obtain a connate cave abode. The winner gets to choose first." Hanj frowned. Fairy Zixuan glared at him and said unhappily, "Don't tell me you're even afraid of fighting? It's not like anyone will harm your life." Hanj hesitated for a moment before asking, "Master, Under normal circumstances, do Golden Core disciples participate? Do you think cultivators of the Golden Core Realm are as common as cabbages? Any disciple who reaches the Golden Core Realm will either become a core disciple, an elder, or a deacon. In other words, all the participants are Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators? That's right. Then, it's settled. Yeah? Thank you for your advice, Master. I will do my best to win face for Jade's serene peak. Fairy Zygzuan finally smiled and looked at him playfully. Lil brat, I don't believe you won't be tempted. Fairy Zygzuan's favorability of you has increased. Current favorability, 2.5 stars. Chapter 17, Reincarnation of a Mahayana Cultivator, Great Progress with Cultivation. Hanj didn't return to his cave abode. Instead, he headed to the inner sect's spiritual pools to cultivate. Since he was participating in the inner sect assessments, he would have to fight for the top 3 places. With a connate cave abode, he would no longer have to worry about the lack of spirit chi. He would be able to stay in his cave abode forever. Before that, he had to increase his cultivation as much as possible. He had asked Fairy Zygzuan about it. There were still 8 years until the next inner sect assessment. Hanj went to the fire spiritual pool first and paid for a year. There were quite a few disciples in the fire spiritual pool. About 20 to 30 of them. Hanj found a corner and began to meditate and cultivate. His appearance attracted the attention of some female disciples. That person is so handsome. Could it be that mysterious, handsome disciple from Jade's serene peak? Maybe. I've never seen anyone so good looking before. I wish I knew him. Hanj could hear their discussion, but he pretended not to. Without a woman in my heart, I can cultivate insanely fast. A year later, Hanj's fire cultivation potential had reached the 8th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. Perhaps because his thunder cultivation potential had already reached the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm, he was able to cultivate his other spirit powers faster than before. Hanj hurried to the water spiritual pool next. Just like that, another 4 years passed. All his remaining cultivation potentials had reached the 8th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. There were 3 years left. He continued to cultivate. He would strive to reach the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm before the inner sect assessment. Wind spiritual pool. The moment Hanj entered, he saw a group of disciples gathered. Zafan, didn't you say that you would surpass us in the next inner sect assessment? Why are you still at the 1st level of the Foundation Establishment Realm? Ha ha ha, how can he surpass us with his cultivation potential? Today, if you're willing to kneel before us, we won't make things difficult for you. Senior, this brat has been relying on Junior Lu before. Now that Junior Lu is getting ready to become the companion of the first disciple from Sword Peak, she will definitely sever ties with him in the future. If we beat him up now, maybe Junior Lu will be more than happy. Hanj shook his head at their discussion and then found a corner to cultivate. Such conflicts weren't rare in the Jade Pure sect. Although the Jade Pure sect was a righteous sect, where there were people, there would always be conflicts. Hanj had seen that more than once before. HMPH. You bunch of trash dare to take on me here? Aren't you afraid of the punishment from the law enforcement hall? Recently, the cult is getting restless and you guys are still stirring up trouble. I have reason to suspect that you're traitors from the cult, so I'll report you to the elders. A cold snort followed, sounding very stubborn. Hanj opened his eyes and looked over. The person who spoke was the person surrounded. Zafan detected connate Providence. Checking its origin. A line of words suddenly appeared in front of Hanj, stunning him. Connate Providence? He immediately chose to check. Zafan, the reincarnation of a Mahayana cultivator, was born in a town in the mortal world. Together with his childhood sweetheart, the Jade Pure sect detected his spirit root. There's a numinous treasure hidden in the depths of his soul. The numinous treasure is severely injured because it protected him. Now, in order to repair itself, the numinous treasure unconsciously absorbs spirit chi while Zafan cultivates, causing his cultivation speed to be extremely slow. Currently, the numinous treasure is about to be successfully repaired. Hanj's expression turned strange. That's an impressive background. He could be a protagonist in a novel. He narrowed his eyes and looked over. Surrounded, Zifan's expression was calm. Even though he was being pushed around, he didn't seem angry at all. Although he wasn't handsome, he gave off a determined and mature aura. Should I help this protagonist? Of course not. Hanj closed his eyes. No matter how impressive Zifan's background was, it had nothing to do with him. On the contrary, with such a bearer of connate providence around him, he wanted to cultivate even harder. Hanj's goal was immortality and invincibility. When he became invincible, he could do whatever he wanted. At the moment, he should stay clear from trouble. The group of disciples spat at Zifan for a while, but in the end, they were frightened off by him and didn't dare to do much. They had already spent a lot of money to be here. If they were to delay any longer, they would be at a disadvantage. The wind spiritual pool fell back into silence. A year later, Hanj's wind cultivation potential had reached the 9th level of the foundation establishment realm. He stood up and left. When he arrived at the wind spiritual pool pavilion, he coincidentally met Zifan again. He was talking to a beautiful girl in green. Hanj noticed that Zifan's hands in his sleeves were tightly clenched into fists, obviously restraining his emotions. The girl in green was calmer in comparison, and she quickly turned and left. Zifan stood where he was with trembling shoulders. Hanj could roughly guess what happened. He walked over and brushed past him. Zifan was still angry. When he saw Hanj, he frowned. "Stop right there!" Zifan shouted. As soon as these words were spoken, the surrounding disciples stopped moving. Hanj didn't stop. He quickly walked out of the pavilion and prepared to head to the other spiritual pools. Zifan suddenly blocked his way. Hanj raised his eyebrows and asked, "What's the matter, brother? Are you Hanj?" "Yeah, you know me. I'm Zifan of the Heavenly Thunder Peak. Senior Mo often mentions you. He said that you must be the future mighty cultivator of the Jade Pure sect." Hanj sweated. He didn't expect Mofuchu to boast about him everywhere. He asked politely, "What's the matter?" Zifan looked conflicted. He took a deep breath and said, "I've heard that you're very well liked by the girls. When Junior Mozu mentions you, her eyes literally glitter. I want to ask, how should I chase a girl?" Hanj was confused. "What the hell? I thought you were going to fight me." Hanj said seriously, "How can cultivators like us be trapped by love? What are girls? If you can obtain the Great Dao, the world will be under your command. By then, you can naturally obtain whatever you want. When have you ever seen me hanging out with girls?" With these words, Hanj walked past Zifan and left quickly. "Idiot. Can your looks compare to mine?" Hanj couldn't help but ridicule in his head. Zifan's pupils shrank as he looked at Hanj's silhouette in shock. What a quick movement technique. This person is truly formidable. Zifan thought to himself and started to ponder over Hanj's words. Mofuchu once said that Hanj was definitely the most dedicated towards cultivation he had ever seen. He hesitated for a moment and continued to follow him. "Mofuchu has a good impression of you. Current favorability, 1 star. When Hanj saw this line of words, he found it ridiculous. He could feel that Zifan was following him, but he didn't care. In the following year, Hanj stayed in the fire spiritual pool and raised his fire cultivation potential to the 9th level of the foundation establishment realm. Zifan had been gone for 2 months. He had looked very reluctant to leave, probably out of spirit stones, wealth, companion, magic, and land. This fellow has neither wealth nor companions. How tragic. Hanj headed to the wood spiritual pool and used 1 year to cultivate his wood cultivation potential to the 9th level of the foundation establishment realm. At this point, only water and earth remained at the 8th level of the foundation establishment realm. Hanj was very satisfied with his cultivation progress. The inner disciple assessment was about to begin. Hanj returned to his cave abode and waited. Less than half a month after his return, the bell of the Jade Serene Peak sounded again. All the disciples gathered in front of the Jade Serene Hall. Eldryan had also arrived. Eldryan's cultivation was still stuck at the 1st level of the foundation establishment realm. His cultivation potential is terrible. Hanj couldn't help but pity him. When all the disciples were kneeling at the entrance of the hall, Liu Sanxin suddenly sent him a voice transmission. "Junior Han, do you know a woman named Xing Hongxuan?" Chapter 18. Personal Disciple. obtaining 9 dragons devil expelling seal. Xing Hongxuan. Han's eyelids twitched. How did that witch know Liu Sanxin? Could Xing Hongxuan have infiltrated the 10,000 demon realm with the cult? It had been many years. He had no idea what the situation in the 10,000 demon realm was. Hanj immediately replied using telepathy. Number. Why? Senior. Telepathy was very simple. A foundation establishment realm cultivator only needed to grasp some techniques and they would learn it very quickly. Under our sect master's lead, I hid in the 10,000 demon realm for the past few years. We encountered the cult attempting to capture the tiger heart white dragon. There was a huge battle, but with the sect master with us, we claimed victory without any casualties. Later, the sect leader told us that it was only so easy because he had received information from a converted spy in the cult. That's why he pretended to leave the sect but hid in the 10,000 demon realm. The converted spy is Xing Hongxuan. When she was young, the cult forced her to take some poison, which they used to threaten her to become a spy in the sect. However, she had always been unwilling and hated it. So, she even tried to steal a recipe from an outer sect alchemist to find an antidote. But that was a naive move. How can pills from an outer sect alchemist work against poison concocted by the cult? After that, she decided to leave the viridescent nether cult. But they tried to hunt her down. The sect master happened to be investigating spies from the viridescent nether cult and saved her. Because she never harmed the Jade Pure sect and she contributed in this latest operation to defeat the cult, the sect master allowed her to join the inner sect as a disciple. Hanj was flabbergasted by the story. Lucky that he could conceal his emotions. Xing Hongxuan is currently cultivating with us at the main peak. Her master is Daist Jingsu. Daist Jingsu is sect master's junior. She's in charge of the main peak and personally guides the core candidates. Previously, when we met Xing Hongxuan, she was asking around about a disciple named Hanj and told us about their story. Interestingly, the outer sect alchemist previously mentioned has become a disciple of our peak. Even more surprising is that the alchemist had a servant named Hanj. And we also have a Hanj here. Junior Han. What a coincidence. Liu Sanxin looked at him teasingly. Hanj felt awkward and didn't know how to reply. That woman actually let out everything. But it's fine. Right now, he was already an inner sect disciple at the 9th level of the foundation establishment realm. Although those were dark days of his life, they didn't affect him much anymore. With no way out, Hanj could only admit, all right, I'm the Hanj she knows. I had no choice then. Haha, I understand. It's just that I didn't expect that you would have such cultivation potential. Liu Sanxin joked, and Hanj heaved a sigh of relief. Hanj couldn't help but glance at Elder Ryan. They had been using telepathy, so no one could hear their conversation. Elder Ryan had his head lowered and Hanj couldn't make out his face. Hanj opened his attributes panel and checked his interpersonal relationships. Xing Hongxuan, 9th level of the Qi refinement realm, can become a companion. Current favorability, 4.5 stars. That woman is close to the foundation establishment realm. Favorability of 4.5 stars. She was the one with the highest favorability towards him. Since you like me so much, I hope you will suffer less in the future. Hanj thought silently. Honestly speaking, he couldn't understand why Xing Hongxuan liked him so much. Just because I'm good looking? Unparalleled looks. Well, sometimes looks are the only thing that matters. But why did Xing Hongxuan have so much information about the viridescent nether cult? Does she have some other secret identity? At this moment, the doors to the Jade Serene Hall opened and all the disciples stood up to enter. After sitting down, they all looked towards Fairy Zixuan. Fairy Zixuan asked, the inner sect assessment is about to begin. Every peak must send at least 10 disciples. Who is willing to participate this time? 6 disciples immediately raised their hands, including Chang Wei. Hanj found it strange that Fairy Zixuan didn't mention anything about the connate cave abode. If it was mentioned, they would probably be fighting to participate. Is it some special reward from Fairy Zixuan? As he thought, Hanj raised his hand silently. The disciples were surprised to see that. Wow, Junior Han is actually participating. Ha ha ha, I thought he was going to continue his seclusion. That should be the case. Continuing with seclusion will affect his progress. Then, I want to participate too. Several disciples raised their hands, causing the participants to exceed 10. Hanj smiled. He didn't expect to be so influential. Although he didn't interact much with the other disciples, he frequented the various spiritual pools to cultivate. So, many people knew that there was an extremely handsome young disciple from Jade's Serene Peak. When the disciples heard about the rumors going around, they guessed that it was Hanj. Over time, even though Hanj kept a low profile, there were already rumors about him in the inner sect. He became famous because of his good looks. When Eldryan saw how popular Hanj was, his expression became even more complex. He was still a nobody in the Jade Serene Peak. After this matter was settled, Fairy Zygzuan let the disciples leave, leaving Hanj alone. The disciples looked at Hanj enviously. It was obvious that Master thought highly of him. He was given special treatment. The doors closed. Hanj looked up at Fairy Zygzuan. He had to admit that Master was really beautiful. Hanj had been in the inner sect for decades, but he had never seen a female cultivator more beautiful than Fairy Zygzuan. However, Fairy Zygzuan's aura was so powerful that no one dared to profane her. Hanj only exclaimed and didn't have any other thoughts. The disciples are not as good looking as their master. Seems like the good looks are not being inherited here. You made progress again. I have underestimated you. Even with 3 attributes, you're still cultivating at an outstanding pace. You're probably the fastest in the Jade Pure sect. Fairy Zygzuan narrowed her eyes as she spoke, as if she wanted to see through him. She was really shocked. In just 8 short years, Hanj's other cultivation potentials had both reached the 8th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. What kind of talent was this? Most importantly, she had never taught him. She was very curious where he had obtained such cultivation technique. I really can't hide anything from you, Master, Hanj replied. His flattery was obvious, but it had little effect. Fairy Zygzuan said, your cultivation techniques and sword techniques are all very good, but they aren't the techniques of the Jade Pure sect. You must have learned it from someone else. I know that you have been diligently cultivating and have no intention of harming the sect. Some people testify that you were born in the outer sect, which means that you ran into a huge opportunity when you were young. But everyone is destined to run into opportunities of all sorts. So, I won't ask further. For this inner sect assessment, you can demonstrate your strength without any worries. You don't have to be afraid of attracting trouble. I'm still very well respected in the sect. Hanj quickly thanked her. He was actually a little worried previously. Now, he wasn't afraid anymore. He would use the 3 pure shadow sword technique blatantly. Based on the relationship between Fairy Zygzuan and Sect Master probably thought the same of him. Or perhaps, these were leaking Tsai's ideas in the first place. The greater Hanj's potential, the happier the Jade Pure sect was. To avoid unnecessary trouble, from today onwards, you're my personal disciple. I will report this to the sect. Fairy Zygzuan spoke again. Personal disciple. Hanj looked up and was surprised. Although Fairy Zygzuan had dozens of disciples under her, most of them were under the sect. The number of personal disciples could be counted on a single hand. Your status in the Jade Pure sect has risen. You have become the personal disciple of a coaching elder. You will obtain a magic manual. Congratulations on obtaining 9 Dragons Devil Expelling Seal. A line of words appeared in front of Hanj. He was pleasantly surprised and quickly thanked Fairy Zygzuan. Fairy Zygzuan took out a token and threw it to him. You may leave. Hanj caught it and took a look. It was a jade token with the words Zygzuan engraved on it. He put away the jade token, bowed, and left. Chapter 19, Xing Hongxuan's Gift. 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm for all 6 attributes. Hanj began inheriting 9 Dragons Devil Expelling Seal once he had returned to his cave abode. It was the 3rd magic he had learned so far, but the first 2 were sword techniques. This was different. As the memory of the technique flowed into him, he quickly processed the information. 9 Dragons Devil Expelling Seal was similar to a palm technique, but it was unique in the sense that it formed a seal that could expel devils, and activating this magic with spirit energy of different attributes would have different effects. Although Hanj didn't possess a top-notch potential in sealing techniques, his unparalleled cultivation potential made his learning smooth. 7 days later, Hanj had finally inherited the magic. It was very close to the inner sect assessment. The coaching elder of each peak had submitted the list of participants. Shang Wei visited him to tell him the rules of the assessment. Each peak would set up an arena, and disciples would go from peak to compete. When the top 10 emerged, they would compete in the inner sect city for everyone in the sect to spectate. Hanj liked it. This way, he would only need to fight about 4 times. Even if he attracted attention, it wouldn't last. Junior, the personal disciples from each peak are having a banquet. Do you want to go? Shang Wei asked. Interestingly, Chang Wei was also Fairy Zixuan's personal disciple. Hanj suspected they were relatives. He felt that Chang Wei's potential was only mediocre. No, you can go if you want to. Hanj shook his head. Conflict would easily break out in a banquet with disciples from different peaks. Especially near the inner sect assessment, all of them would want their own peak to look good. Fine. Shang Wei shook her head and left. Hanj continued practicing the 9 Dragons Devil Expelling Seal. Although he had already learned it, he wanted to gain complete mastery as he did with his sword techniques. After all, the remaining time wasn't enough to cultivate further. Days passed like that, and the inner sect assessment finally began. The 13 disciples taking part in the assessment stood before the Jade Serene Hall. A wooden notice hanging on the hall gate displayed the venues and timings for each disciple. Everyone had to compete on the first day. Hanj's first match was at Tenza Peak. Tenza Peak was among the top 3 in the sect. They were strong. The timing was noon on the second day. After taking note of it, Hanj quickly returned to his cave abode. But he saw someone unexpected at the entrance, Xing Hongxuan. It had been decades. She looked even more elegant in the Jade Pure Sect Taoist robes. Husband. Xing Hongxuan called out in surprise and scurried over. Speechless, Hanj moved back as he complained, "Miss, I'm not, so don't call me that." Xing Hongxuan covered her mouth and laughed. "Didn't we agree on this back in the outer sect?" Helpless, Hanj said frankly, "I was just putting on a show. If I rejected you, you would have killed me." "But I took it seriously. When I met the sect master, I was worried that you would have already exposed me. However, you didn't. You gave me the opportunity to confess. Only then did I have the opportunity to rejoin the Jade Pure Sect and obtain my current status." Xing Hongxuan smiled. She took out a jade bottle from her sleeve and said, "This is a Jade Pure Pill. It's suitable for Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators to increase their cultivation. I haven't reached the Foundation Establishment Realm yet, so you can use it first. I'm currently cultivating with Daoist Jingsu and will receive this pill regularly." Hanj was stunned. Xing Hongxuan stuffed the bottle into his hand and said, "Work hard during the inner sect assessment. I didn't expect my husband to be a genius. My aptitude is average, but I will try my best to help you in the future. If my husband reaches the nascent soul realm, he won't mistreat me, right?" Her smile was very sweet and pure, without the slightest hint of a fiendish cultivator. Hanj didn't know if he should reject. Xing Hongxuan suddenly turned around and left. She performed flying sword technique and disappeared into the clouds. She didn't give him a chance to reject. When Hanj returned to his cave abode, he opened the bottle and found 7 Jade Pure pills inside. Swallowed one, he was pleasantly surprised to find a huge amount of spirit chi entering his body. He hurriedly circulated his spirit power to refine it. An hour later, he had completed refining all the spirit chi into water spirit energy. It was as good as half a month of cultivation. With his aptitude, half a month of cultivation was equivalent to several years of cultivation for others. This pill is so powerful. Is this the treatment of a core candidate? Hanj was secretly shocked. He had underestimated Xing Hongxuan's favorability towards him. At the same time, he was quite puzzled. So, she's able to receive such treatment only by providing information about viridescent nether cult's operations in the 10,000 demon realm? Xing Hongxuan was only a chi refinement cultivator active in the outer sect previously. How did she find out the secrets of the viridescent nether cult? It seemed that her identity wasn't as simple as he had imagined. Hanj didn't think too much and continued to take the Jade Pure pills. After 3 pills, his water cultivation potential had successfully reached the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. He converted all the remaining Jade Pure pills into Earth Spirit energy and successfully reached the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm for it too. At this point, all 6 types of cultivation potentials had reached the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. He scanned outside with his divine sense and saw it was already late at night. What a powerful Jade Pure pill. No wonder alchemists have such a high status. Hanj thought silently and suddenly had an idea. At Main Peak, in a dark hall, Xing Hongxuan sat in front of an elderly female Taoist. She was Taoist Jingxu. Don't you regret giving the Jade Pure pills to that boy from the Jade Serene Peak? Taoist Jingxu asked. Xing Hongxuan said in a soft voice, I don't regret it. I have fallen into the trap of love. Just because he has good looks. Isn't that enough? His looks are indeed outstanding. In all my life, I have never seen a man who is better looking than him. I feel that it isn't worth it for you to help him just because of his looks. His aptitude is also very outstanding. When I first saw him, he hadn't started cultivating yet. But I heard from the sect master that he's already at the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. Taoist Jingxu frowned and fell into deep thought. Such talent was indeed puzzled. She asked, why haven't I heard of him all these years? Xing Hongxuan answered, Sect Master said he kept a low profile. Ever since he entered the inner sect, he has been busy cultivating in seclusion. Previously, the sect master wanted to give him an opportunity, but he rejected it because he was afraid of death. Taoist Jingxu teased, if he was afraid of death, how could he have such an experience? It seems like he's very determined and confident in himself. Xing Hongxuan nodded. Thinking of Han's extremely handsome face, her face turned slightly red. It seems I have to pay more attention to him, Taoist Jingxu said with a half smile. At noon, Hanj set off for Tanza Peak. He stood on the flying sword with a conflicted expression. What should I do today? I can't seem too strong. With a 9th level foundation establishment cultivation for all 6 attributes and unparalleled sword techniques, Hanj really didn't think anyone could compete with him. He had heard that the highest cultivation level of this assessment's candidates was only at the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. Disciples with higher cultivation levels had already finished their apprenticeship or become personal disciples, elite disciples, or core disciples. They didn't need the reward from the assessment. With the same cultivation, Hanj felt that he couldn't lose. Detected that the Jade Pure Sect Inner Sect assessment is about to begin. You have the following choices. Chapter 20. Suppressing the Great Grand Elder. Numinous Treasure. Hanj's eyes lit up. He had heard before that numinous treasures were stronger than usual treasures. Every time I have a choice to remain low profile, it's probably related to my choice in the beginning. Hanj thought silently. When he started the game of life, he chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and even activated the ability to hide his cultivation. Pretty good. I like this. Playing the pig to eat the tiger. No, remain low-profile until I become invincible. Hanj thought happily. He wanted to be the secret cultivation master of the Jade Pure Sect. Hanj couldn't choose the second option directly. He had to wait till the end of the assessment. Elated, he accelerated towards Tanza Peak. At Tanza Peak, dozens of disciples surrounded a battle arena. Mofuchu and Mozu also came. As they watched the battle on the stage, Mofuchu and Mozu were puzzled. Hanj seemed to be in a stalemate with his opponent. Most of the time, he was defending and dodging, clearly at a disadvantage. His opponent, a disciple of Tanza Peak, was excited to meet such a weakling in the first round. This is too awesome. The Tanza Peak disciple silently thought to himself. He exerted his spirit energy generously and even maintained a handsome posture during the battle. Hanj was suffering. It was really tiring to act like this. He used the 7 illusionary steps to dodge, but he still had to try his best to show that his movement technique wasn't exquisite. He gritted his teeth and persisted. As the two of them fought for longer and longer, the spectating disciples felt bored and left one after another. Mofuchu and Mozu were still watching the battle. He can't be so weak, can he? Mozu couldn't help but ask. Mofuchu said calmly, He's doing it on purpose. At this moment, Hanj suddenly used the unparalleled finger divine sword. He pointed his finger and the sword chi pierced his opponent's shoulder. Immediately, he launched forward with 7 illusionary steps and kicked the opponent down the sparring platform. It was over. The 3 deacons presiding over the battle were stunned. Their attention had already strayed away. They didn't expect it to end so abruptly. Hanj cupped his fists and said, "Thank you." He then walked towards the 3 deacons below the platform and registered his victory. The Tanzapik disciple left dejectedly. The Mo siblings immediately came forward. "Brother Han, why didn't you win directly?" Mo Fuchu asked. In his opinion, Hanj was the most talented disciple of the Jade Pure sect. However, Hanj kept a low profile, and no one believed his talent. Hanj shook his head and smiled. "I only found his weakness." He then changed the topic. "How have you been recently, Miss Mo?" It would have been fine if he hadn't brought it up, but the moment he did, Moza was infuriated. "If I knew earlier, I would have listened to you. I went to Li Qianlong's abode, and in the end, I was targeted by both fiendish cultivators and fellow disciples. Eventually, I was forced to jump off the cliff. I was fortunate to have an elder assist me." Moza cursed angrily. Hanju asked, "Who is this elder?" "I'm not sure, either. He left after saving me. Perhaps he's some expert from the Jade Pure sect." Oh. That was the end of the conversation. Hanj bid farewell to the siblings and left quickly. Moza looked at his departing figure and said gloomily, "Big brother, why do I feel like he's avoiding me? He doesn't want to talk to me." Mo Fucha smiled and said, "You're making it too obvious. Brother Han is an ascetic. He doesn't want his cultivation to be affected by love. What's left to life if he always cultivates like that?" Everyone pursues different things. He pursues immortality and the great Dao. I think the two of you are the same kind of people. I'm no match for him. Hanj continued practicing the 9 Dragons Devil Expelling Seal once he had returned to his cave abode. He only used 7 illusionary steps in the match a while ago, so he was hardly tired. In the following days, the same pattern followed. Every time, Hanj would only defeat his opponent after all the spectators had left. The defeated opponents would be too embarrassed to mention it. Hence, Hanj continued progressing, but no one took much notice. But the reincarnated Mahayana realm cultivator Zifan was the black horse. He continued winning until he reached the top 10. The entire inner sect was discussing him. Many thought he was daydreaming to want to challenge the first disciple of the Sword Peak for a companion. They didn't think he could do much. The first disciple of the Sword Peak didn't participate in the assessment, but he had announced that if Zifan managed to enter the top 3, he would accept the challenge. This matter caused an uproar in the inner sect, but Hanj wasn't interested. He had read too many such plots in novels. That night, Hanj was cultivating the 9 Dragons Devil Expelling Seal in the cave abode. He hadn't used this move in the previous battles, but as he practiced for the past few days, he could handle the 9 Dragons Devil Expelling Seal pretty well now. Hanj could cast this spell within a second. Most spells required hand seals to activate the technique. They weren't like purely physical techniques that had no delay. But with more practice, a day would come when the spell could be cast immediately. Whoosh! The sound of wind came from outside the cave abode. At first, Hanj didn't care. But not long after, he felt inexplicably uneasy. He quickly stopped and scanned the surroundings with his divine sense. There was no one in the open space outside the cave, nor were there any beasts or birds. Under the crescent moon, Jade Serene Peak actually looked very sinister. "What's happening?" Hanj frowned. The trees outside weren't moving, which meant there was no wind. But why could he still hear the wind? Was he possessed? Hanj felt a chill down his spine. After being reborn for decades, this was the first time he encountered such a situation. But if this world had demons and cultivators, ghosts weren't too far-fetched either. Nervous, Hanj held his breath. If it was really a ghost, how strong would it be if even Fairy Zixuan didn't discover it? Ghosts, ghosts, please leave. Ghosts, ghosts, please leave. He chanted to himself. At this moment, all of a sudden, he saw wisps of black aura flying into the cave through the crack in the stone gate. What the hell? It really is a ghost. Without another word, Hanj raised his hand and executed the 9 dragons devil expelling seal. A golden jade seal flew head-on towards the black aura. This golden jade seal was embedded with 9 dragons, domineeringly and divine. It directly dispersed the black gas and disappeared into thin air. Hanj frowned. He felt a powerful, repulsive force. Logically speaking, the 9 dragons devil expelling seal should have continued to crash forward, knocking down the stone door. He focused his gaze and saw that the scattered black aura was condensing again. Hanj quickly went up and used the 9 dragons devil expelling seal again. Boom, not enough. Again. Boom, boom. Hanj stood in front of the black aura and struck out with his palms, again and again, creating a huge hole in the ground. The wall of the cave beside him also split open. This was still under his precise control. Otherwise, he could have collapsed the entire cave abode with a single palm strike. Wait, stop, stop, stop. A wail followed. Hanj frowned and looked down at the black aura. I'm a great grand elder of the Jade Pure sect. How dare a disciple like you disrespect me? The black aura roared angrily, leaving Hanj stunned. Great grand elder. The black aura quickly condensed into a human form. It was very short, only half a meter tall. This person was emaciated and wore a large white robe, with a head full of white hair. He looked up at him angrily. Hanj said helplessly, "Sir, what are you trying to do by sneaking into my cave abode in the middle of the night?" The great grand elder said grumpily, "I'm just cultivating a divine art. My primordial spirit has left my body. When I heard the sound coming from your cave abode, I couldn't help but come in out of curiosity." Although he lectured him, he was actually shocked inside. What kind of spell was that? He almost killed me. His spirit energy felt like the 5th level of the Golden Core realm. The Jade Pure sect's inner sect is already so outstanding.